Guys, it is time for a brand new Q&A video, and in case this is your first one, know that these questions all come from members of the Patreon team. If you want to explore how to get a question on this video, there's a link at the bottom of the screen right now. Head on over there and check out all the information. Again, a long list to hit today, and this video is kicking off with a question from Steven, who wants to know, what advice would you give to young film students striving to be like you? It's really tough giving a broad answer to this question because, like I say anytime I talk about film school, maybe you need it, maybe you don't, and both paths are totally fine. In my case, I did feel the need to attend film school. I started out journalism undergrad, I got my degree there, and then I started critiquing movies. I started working as a film reporter, and I sat there one day and I said to myself, here I am reviewing all of these movies, but it didn't feel right to me to not have had the experience of trying to make one myself. And I'm not saying every single critic out there needs that experience, but personally, I did. Went to film school, specifically studied film producing, and when I walked away, I felt so much more confident in my work as a film critic, an interviewer, a reporter, so it all worked out for me, so I'm happy that I followed that path. But when I think about my experience at film school and what might help everybody out there, no matter what your goals or at what point you're studying film, is the importance of networking and collaborating. Because when I think back to film school, some of my best friends to this day are from that program. Some of my best collaborators to this day are from that program. And a recent exciting thing that happened is, you guys know I went to the Overlook Film Festival to cover it as a critic and reporter, and who was there? A bunch of people that I went to film school with their first feature, and it meant so much to me to be able to support their work. Porno the movie on Twitter, check it out over there, but really, that was probably one of the most special experiences I had in film school, was just the group of people I got to meet, both on a social level, but also on a work collaboration level. So don't take that opportunity for granted. Work with as many people as you can. It will serve you better in the long run. All right, next question here is one from Evan, who's asking, one of the funniest or favorite experiences you've had with Dewey? I think the first thing that comes to mind is flying cross country with Dewey. So Dewey came on board in the cabin of the plane with me when I moved from New York to LA, and Dewey was not thrilled with the experience. He cried for most of the flight, and eventually it hit the point where I had to take his carrier and put it on my tray table, and I just sat there with my hand in his carrier for something like 4 hours until we finally got to LA, and he had calmed down a little bit in between. So that was an experience. And also, two of my best friends from New York, you have probably seen them on this channel a little, or us interacting on Twitter, Christy Puchko and Angie Hahn. One night we were having a girls' night at my apartment, and of course we were drinking a little bit. And then on their way out in New York City, I used to let Dewey run up and down the hallway. I had hardwood floors in my apartment, and he liked running up and down the carpet in the hallway. So one night I was letting them out, and there was a dog in the hallway, and Dewey ran out, and he had never really interacted with a dog much, so I freaked out and I ran out of the apartment. Then they got startled and they went out of my apartment, and then all of a sudden all four of us were standing in the hallway with this other person and their dog, and my apartment door shuts behind them, and all four of us were locked out. So that was an experience as well, but every day is an adventure with Dewey. All right, next question here. This one is from Luke, who's asking, what film festival crowd has the funnest vibe? I think it really mostly comes down to who you attend these film festivals with, a little more so than the film festivals themselves. But of course, I do have my favorites here, and the first one I thought of was South by Southwest. I really do take to the lineup of films that they curate, especially the midnight lineup. And then I just love the city of Austin. I have so much fun every time I go there. And again, I've got to bring up Overlook again, because one, it's a film festival packed with horror movies. Then on top of that, I am so impressed by that immersive lineup. I want every single film festival out there to include something like that. Immersive storytelling is something that's so exciting to me right now. New Orleans was incredible. And then I'm going to bring it right back to the beginning of my answer to this question. The group of people I was there with, That was a very, very special group. I really enjoyed spending time with them, and I really do think that's the key to a great festival experience. So anytime you do go to a film festival, whether you're going alone or with other people, I would definitely recommend exploring, meeting new people, because the community at these festivals, in particular the horror festivals, are something special that you can't really find anywhere else. All right, next one is a question from PJ, who's asking, what is your favorite Irish-produced film? I've got two answers for you right now, PJ. First one is Sing Street. I adore that movie. It has become a bit of a musical classic to me at this point. I listen to the soundtrack nonstop. That movie, no matter how many times I see it, never loses its charm. And another really important one to me is the movie Brooklyn with Saoirse Ronan, because I might have told you guys about this before, but I saw that movie at the perfect time in my life. It was right when I was weighing the option of whether or not to move to LA. So that's when I saw it, and then I watched it again after I committed, and there's something about that movie that really did help me process the idea of moving cross country and leaving my family. So that movie will always have a special place in my heart personally, but also it is a phenomenal movie, and no surprise here, but Saoirse Ronan, yet another incredible performance on her resume. So if you have not seen either of those movies, I cannot recommend them enough. Next question is a question from Billy, who wants to know, do you remember the first interview you gave where you were extremely nervous? I'll never forget one of my very first press days because I was so nervous because I didn't really know what I was getting into. It was for the movie The House of the Devil, and director Ty West was there, and so was Greta Gerwig, and I was just so nervous because walking into that hotel, I didn't really know what the whole thing had entailed, and also I just wanted to do a good job for the outlet that hired me, but thankfully that interview was a roundtable situation, so the pressure wasn't all on me, and I was there with a good group of people, so it wound up being a wonderful starting point. Where I was so low and extremely nervous is later on, I mean years later, I did my very first one of those Apple talks, the Apple interviews in the store in Soho, I believe, and it was for the movie The Final Girls, a movie that I loved, loved, loved. I prepped so much to host that Q&A, and I was so nervous. Malin Ackerman was there, and then on top of that, the director was there. And I was so nervous, and I knew his name. I knew his name very well. And then right before we hit the stage, someone said, don't screw up his name. So I still say it wrong for this reason, so I'm going to look at the paper. His name is Todd Strauss Scholson, and someone told me before I got on stage, don't reverse the hyphenate. Don't reverse his last name. And sure enough, do you know what I did when I got out there? I reversed his name. Thankfully, in the moment, I didn't realize it, so I was kind of on cruise control with my usual interview questions after that, but I was so upset when I rewatched it and realized what I did. Also, I was super nervous for that Impulse panel last year at San Diego Comic-Con. It was a dream of mine from day one of attending San Diego Comic-Con ever 10 years ago. I was just dying to host a panel. I finally got the opportunity, and I was standing up there, and I was so, so nervous. But again, it came down to the group of people I was with. YouTube was so supportive, and so was the cast and crew of Impulse. So I am so I hope I get to do more of those in the future, and if I do, I have a great foundation thanks to that group right there. So I will never forget that experience. Next question now is one from Ian, who's asking, after watching the excellent When They See Us in Chernobyl miniseries, have there been any films which would have been better as a miniseries? Have there been any TV series which would have been better as movies? Thinking about all the new shows that I've watched in 2019, I actually don't have a good answer for that second question. Just things that are coming to mind right now. I really love Dead to Me. I think that format served that show very well. For a brief second, I did consider Black Summer, but given the fact that we have so many zombie movies out there, I think the format is what makes that show stand out so much. So I wouldn't want to put that one in there. So I'm going to leave that answer blank for now. Maybe I'll revisit it throughout the year if something catches my eye. But something did come to mind for a movie that might be better served as a TV series or a mini series. And it's a recent release, and it's Dark Phoenix. So you guys should know that I did teeter just positive on Dark Phoenix. I thought it was passable from an entertainment value perspective, but of course, there were things that could have been a lot stronger. this is such a character-driven story arc that requires such a strong foundation, not just for Jean Grey, but so many of the other characters around her. And the fact that we never got to spend enough time on the big screen with this new class, I think really hurt it. So I do wonder if you confine the Dark Phoenix storyline to a TV series or a miniseries, and you get much more screen time to build those characters and build those relationships before digging into the Dark Phoenix scenario. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know what Disney's plans are for the X-Men in the future, and specifically if they're ever going to tackle this storyline again, but the idea of bringing the X-Men to the TV format does intrigue me quite a bit, especially because one of my favorite parts of the X-Men is the fact that they feel like a family. And I think when you have characters that feel like a family, you need an extended period of time in order to build those relationships. So, hey, maybe a Disney Plus series is the way to go for the X-Men. I'm so curious to see what they do, though. I've got a lot of faith in how they're going to incorporate the X-Men Fantastic Four. So we definitely have some time to wait before we actually see that come to fruition on the big screen, but I am happy to sit back, relax, and wait and see what Marvel comes up with. All right, next question here is one from Kavi, who's asking, what film critics do you respect, admire, value their opinion the most? Of course, completely okay to give many answers from throughout your life, etc. Would like to get insight into the critics that have had an impact on you. Like many out there, the first name that came to mind is Roger Ebert, and in particular the show Siskel and Ebert. I followed in my mother's footsteps when it came to film criticism. Anything she watched or read, she would either pass the information along to me or share that show with me as well. So I did watch a lot of the things that she did, which is what led me to Jeffrey Lyons. So Jeffrey Lyons was a big deal in my life. I watched a lot of his work. I watched a lot of his work with Allison Bales, who also had a major impact on me because one of my very first jobs after working at New York One was working for Real Talk with Jeffrey Lyons and Allison Bales, and it was a dream come true. And not only was it a dream come true to actually get that job, but when I went over there and started working there, I was as happy as I can be. Just think of a job where you wake up every morning and you're so excited to go to the office. That's what that was. And I was heartbroken when the show was canceled. One, because I was upset for them. I loved having their voice so strongly throughout the industry, but also because I was going to miss that job dearly. But I couldn't be more thankful for it because I don't think I would be doing this myself right now had it not been for working for the two of them for a little while. So that whole team there, Mike Avila, the producer as well, I will never, never forget that experience, how much I loved it, and also how much it has shaped me as a film critic and reporter myself. Now, I'm going to shout out some of my best friends. You guys should know these people are my friends, but I also really admire their work as critics as well, because I think their voice comes through so strongly in their work. Christy Puchko, Angie Hahn, and also Matt Donato. You saw Matt Donato in my Overlook Film Festival video, and with him, it never ceases to amaze me how he will go out, he will live his life to the fullest at a film festival and somehow churn out a film review between like the wee hours of the morning and have it be a great review that feels so specifically him. I love how his voice shines through in all of his writing. Also, Angie Hahn. Her reviews are great, but I couldn't recommend this enough. If you're looking for a Twitter account to follow that focuses on film and someone who just has like a super sharp wit, you have to follow Angie. Every single time we walk out of one of the big premieres and I see everybody, myself included, doing one of those long review tweets, and then I look over at what she wrote, she usually has me in tears laughing so hard. And now Christy, I admire her so much because of the strength I see in her reviews. She usually highlights something that I wasn't really fully considering, and she backs up her points so well. When we were doing the podcast Popcorn and Prosecco together, I often found that Christy and I used to fall on opposite sides of a divide when it came to how we felt about a movie, but those were some of the richest conversations I've ever had because even though we weren't in line, she would back up her points so strongly that it would challenge me to consider her perspective as well. And that's really why I love exploring other reviews out there so much, because as much as I hold strong to how I feel about a movie, I love hearing other perspectives, especially from people who consider things that I don't usually veer towards in my reviews also. That's the exciting thing about this industry, is that you can have a variety of reactions to a film based on who you are, what your personal interests are, where you are at life, and that's why I love what I do so much. All right, next question here is one from Ryan, and this is the last question of the video. Ryan's asking, what movie do you think has the best art direction of all time? This is a hard question here. Anytime you say all time, I stress a little bit about it, but I wanted to start off, I've got a list of 4 things here, and I wanted to start off with some newer releases. First up, Black Panther. I think the production design in that film is phenomenal. And then also Hannah Beachler wound up giving one of my favorite speeches at the Oscars last year. So that's on the list. Also, Mad Max Fury Road. The year that movie came out, it was my favorite movie. And it's not just because the art direction is so strong. It's because every single department is working at peak performance, and then everything is brought together so well that world that they build completely sucks you in. But now going back a little, one of the first movies that came to mind, because it's very important to me from a nostalgia perspective and just growing up, it's the movie Hook. That movie, whether it was some of the material at the beginning or when we get to Neverland and you have the stuff on Captain Hook's ship, you have the material with the Lost Boys, that was a world growing up that I would step back into any chance I got, and it stayed true as an adult for me. I love revisiting Hook so much, and the art direction is definitely something that stands out in that movie. And then, of course, I have to give a nod to Star Wars. I believe the first Star Wars did get the Production Design Academy Award, but my mind goes more towards The Empire Strikes Back, just because of how they took what that first Star Wars movie started and then built upon it in ways that show that that was an important franchise that was going to stand the test of time, where you can go back to the originals, you could still get sucked into it and love it so much, but seeing how far they've taken what they've built in those original movies and where we are right now, that is something that's truly phenomenal, and I'm glad to be recognizing it right now. So thanks for the question, Ryan. To everybody here who sent in questions for this month's video, thank you. They were great. Giving you all a quick extra shout out here. We've got Steven, Evan, Luke, PJ, Billy, Ian, Kavi, and Ryan. Thank you guys for the continued support. I hope you know how much I appreciate it. And a huge thanks to everybody out there right now watching this video. Again, if you want to send a question in, the link, it's right there. Check it out. I will see you real soon for a brand new Q&A video.